The galaxy was calm. Stars burned quietly, ships traveled between safe trade routes, and the great galactic union believed that peace was strong. But peace is always fragile. Somewhere, in the deep dark of space, a signal escaped. It was weak. It was broken. It was not clear who sent it. But one thing was certain, it was a call for help. The message repeated again and again, carried across the stars. The voice inside was full of fear. Help, enemy fleet is coming. Please, anyone, respond. Static ate the rest of the words. For many, it was just noise. For others, it was a warning. But for those who truly listened, it was something far worse, a question of survival. The colony hears it. The first to receive the signal was not the Union. It was not Earth. It was a small colony at the edge of the spiral arm, a farming world with weak defenses. The colony was run by a species called the Erythians, gentle, thin-bodied aliens with fragile skin, known more for art and trade than for war. They lived quietly, growing food, exporting crops, and avoiding trouble. They had never fired a shot in anger. And they had no reason to. Until now. The colony's communication center was small. Just a round building, with a few blinking screens and tired workers. One night, one of the workers, a young Erythian named Vayer, leaned closer to his console. "Supervisor," he whispered. His thin fingers trembled as he adjusted the frequency. I think we just caught something." The supervisor, an older Erythian with dull eyes, walked over. He frowned as the broken signal played again. "Help, enemy fleet is coming, please." The words repeated. The static hissed. The voice was clearly not Erythian. It was not even from a nearby species. "Run it through the translator," the supervisor ordered. The machine tried. The machine failed. The language was damaged, incomplete, broken by distance. But the fear in the voice was universal. Fear in the council. Within hours, the colony called its council. Leaders, farmers, traders, all gathered in a circular hall. The signal played again. "Enemy fleet is coming." The hall grew silent. No one moved. Finally, one farmer spoke. "If an enemy fleet is coming, then who is the enemy? Are they near us? Are we next?" The council leader raised her thin arms. "We do not know. That is why we must forward the signal to the Galactic Union. Let them decide." The vote was fast. The choice was simple. The colony could not fight. They could not even protect themselves. They would send the message up the chain, and hope someone powerful would care. The Union reacts. Days later, the signal reached the Galactic Union Council, a gathering of dozens of species from across the galaxy. They met in a shining city on a core world, where towers stretched into the clouds and fleets of ships hung above. The Union Council prided itself on peace. It was their greatest law: no species may start war. Conflicts must be solved with words, not weapons. But when the signal played inside the council chamber, fear cracked the walls of peace. "Help, enemy fleet is coming." Delegates whispered to each other. Some trembled. Others frowned. The chairperson, a tall, insectoid alien, raised his voice. "This message comes from outside our controlled space. Unknown sender. Unknown enemy. Unknown reason. The question is, do we answer?" One delegate shouted, "It could be a trap." Another hissed, "It could be pirates trying to lure ships." Another whispered, "Or worse, it could be from them." At once the chamber fell silent. Everyone knew who "them" meant. The Hunters. A species that lived on conquest, raiding weaker planets, leaving nothing behind but ash and broken bones. The Union avoided them. The Union feared them. If this SOS was from a victim of the Hunters, then it was already too late. "Send the message for analysis," the chairperson ordered. But no rash action. "We will not be dragged into war." The vote passed. The decision was slow. Too slow. The signal spreads. While the Union debated, the signal kept moving. It bounced from relay to relay, carried by accident and delay. It was not supposed to reach Earth. But it did. Hidden on a small monitoring station orbiting Mars, a human operator leaned forward. His name was Corporal Diaz, and his coffee had gone cold. He pressed a button. The old speakers buzzed. "Help, enemy fleet is coming." Diaz blinked. He ran the signal through translation. The words were clear enough. He froze. This was not routine. This was not trade. This was war. Earth hears the call. The signal was rushed to Earth Command. Generals, admirals, and politicians all sat in a dark war room deep under the surface. The recording played again. "Help, enemy fleet is coming." The room was silent. Finally, an admiral leaned forward. His face was lined with scars. His voice was cold. "Whoever sent this," he said, "is in deep trouble. And whoever that enemy fleet is, they're about to learn what humans do when someone asks for help." A general frowned. "Admiral, we don't even know who they are. We don't know if it's real. It could be bait." The admiral's lips curled into a grim smile. "Doesn't matter. Somebody screamed for help. That's enough for me." The politicians whispered. The military planned. And the decision came fast. Earth would answer. The aliens whisper. When the Union Council learned that Earth had moved first, fear spread like wildfire. "They answered." One delegate gasped. "Why would they do that? They weren't even invited." Whispers grew into panic. Everyone knew what humans were. Deathworlders. A species born on a planet of storms, predators, and endless wars. A species too dangerous, too violent, too uncontrollable. The Union had always kept them at a distance. Humanity had joined the Union, yes, but only on paper. Few wanted to deal with them. Few wanted to see them in action. And now, they had answered the SOS. "What if they destroy everything?" one alien asked. "What if they bring more war?" another cried. The chairperson hissed. "Pray they never arrive." The calm before the storm. Meanwhile, the small colony that first heard the SOS waited. Days passed. Their council worried. Their people whispered. "Did the Union hear us? Will they send help? What if no one comes?" The colony leader looked at the stars and tried to stay calm. Help would come. Surely it would. But the truth was simple. Help was already on its way. It was not the kind of help they wanted. It was not the kind of help they expected. It was the kind of help that brought fire, steel, and war. It was the kind of help that changed galaxies. Because humans had heard the signal. And when humans hear a cry for help, they do not ignore it. The hook. The colony did not yet know. The Union did not yet know. The galaxy did not yet know. But the wrong species had heard the SOS. And the fleet from hell was already moving. The signal should have been lost. It should have been ignored. But it reached the wrong ears. And now, humanity was awake. The decision room. Deep under Earth's surface, inside a war bunker made of steel and silence, the leaders of humanity sat together. The SOS message had been played a dozen times. Every time, the voice cracked through static. "Help, enemy fleet is coming." The words were simple. The meaning was not. General Harland, an old man with sharp eyes, leaned back in his chair. "We don't know who sent this. We don't know where it's from. But I know one thing, someone is in trouble." Across the table, Admiral Knox smiled without warmth. He had seen war in space. He had lost ships, men, and friends. But he had never ignored a call for help. "They are screaming into the dark," Knox said. "We will answer." Some of the politicians protested. "This could drag us into another war," one shouted. "We don't even know the species. They could be hostile," another warned. Knox's voice cut through them like a blade. "We are humans. When someone cries for help, we go. That is who we are. That is what makes us different. Silence fell. The decision was made. Preparing the fleet. Orders spread like fire. The United Terran Navy was awakened. Shipyards lit up, engines roared, and entire fleets prepared to move. Colossal warships, carriers, destroyers, dreadnoughts, lined up like wolves hungry for prey. Their hulls were scarred from old battles, patched with steel and blood, but their guns shone with new power. On the command bridge of the supercarrier Iron Resolve, Admiral Knox stood with his officers. "Set coordinates," he ordered. "Yes, sir," replied the navigator. The SOS signal had no clear origin. The message was broken. But humanity's scientists had traced fragments, pulling coordinates from the noise. The path was uncertain. Dangerous. But the humans smiled. Danger was their language. "Fleet ready," said the comms officer. Knox nodded. "Then let's show the galaxy what happens when humanity answers a call." Engines flared. Space twisted. And the fleet from Earth vanished into the dark. Whispers in the Union. News traveled fast. The Galactic Union soon learned what humanity had done. Inside the council chamber, chaos erupted. "They launched a fleet," one delegate cried. "They weren't invited," another shouted. "They cannot be trusted. They are Deathworlders." The chairperson slammed his claw on the table. Enough. But the panic continued. Every species in the chamber remembered the history of Earth. A planet of storms. A planet of endless predators. A planet where life only survived by being strong, clever, and ruthless. And the humans had taken those lessons to the stars. The Union had always feared them. That fear now grew. "What if they don't rescue?" one alien whispered. "What if they conquer?" another muttered. The chairperson hissed. "Pray they never reach the colony. Pray the enemy fleet destroys them first." But deep down, they all knew the truth. Humanity was coming. And nothing could stop them. The colony waits. Far away, the Erythian colony that first heard the SOS lived in fear. Their people gathered at night, staring at the sky. "Did the Union hear us?" one farmer asked. "Will they send ships?" another whispered. Their council leader tried to calm them. "The Union will decide. Help will come." But her own heart was heavy. The Union was slow. The Union debated. The Union delayed. If the enemy fleet was real, if it was coming, then time was already running out. And then, they saw something in the night sky. A flash. A ripple. A scar in space. Dozens of shapes appeared above their world, dark, massive, and armed. Ships. The colony cheered. The Union has sent help. But as the ships drew closer, their cheers turned to silence. These were not Union ships. These were not the gentle white cruisers of peace. These were black, scarred warships with the mark of Earth painted across their hulls. The humans had arrived. The arrival. The human fleet fell into orbit. Carriers, dreadnoughts, destroyers, all hung above the fragile farming colony like a pack of predators. On the ground, fear spread. The Erythians huddled in their homes, whispering. "Deathworlders," one said. "They came here," another asked. "They came for us," a third whispered. On the Iron Resolve, Admiral Knox stood tall. He looked down at the green fields of the colony, then at the quiet stars beyond. "Signal them," he ordered. A message was sent to the colony. The humans spoke simply. "We heard your SOS. We are here." But the colony council trembled. They had not sent the message. They had only forwarded it. Still, humanity had come. And humanity was not leaving. The fear of rescue. In the colony's council hall, leaders gathered. The message from the humans echoed in their minds. "They said they are here to help," one whispered. "They are monsters," another hissed. "Their planet kills them every day. Their history is endless war. But they answered when the Union did not. A farmer argued. The council leader closed her eyes. She had read about humans. She had seen images of their soldiers, scarred, armored, carrying weapons larger than her entire body. She did not know if their arrival meant salvation or destruction. The enemy appears. For 3 days, the human fleet waited. They repaired their ships. They watched the stars. And then the warning came. Sensors lit up. Dozens of red signals filled the screens. Ships, fast, sharp, hostile, dropping out of hyperspace. The enemy fleet. The same enemy that had sent the SOS into the void. The Erythians saw them first. Hundreds of ships, black as shadow, sliding through the stars like knives. The Erythians froze in terror. The humans smiled. Finally, Admiral Knox said. His voice was calm. Too calm. A real fight. The first shots. The enemy fleet opened fire. Beams of energy streaked across space, aiming for the colony. But the humans moved faster. Shields up, Knox ordered. The iron resolve absorbed the first strike, its shields burning but holding. Return fire, Knox commanded. And the sky lit up. Human battleships spat fire and metal. Missiles streaked across the void. Cannons roared. The darkness of space burned with war. The Erythians watched from the ground, their hearts pounding. They had never seen such fury. They had never seen such destruction. To them, the humans looked less like rescuers, and more like demons from a nightmare. The fleet from hell. The battle raged. Enemy ships exploded one by one, torn apart by human weapons. But the humans did not stop. They pushed forward. They hunted. They fought like predators unleashed. On the command deck, Admiral Knox stood with his arms behind his back. His face was calm, his eyes cold. "This is what we do," he whispered. The humans did not fight for glory. They did not fight for conquest. They fought because someone had asked for help. And when humans fought, they fought to win. The watching galaxy. Back in the Union, the Council received reports. The humans had engaged the enemy fleet. Delegates trembled. "They will destroy everything," one cried. "They will burn the stars," another shouted. But as the reports continued, silence spread. The humans were not losing. The humans were winning. And the galaxy realized something terrifying. The SOS had gone to the wrong species. The wrong species had answered. And now, the wrong species was rewriting the rules of war. The hook for Part 3. Above the colony, fire still burned. The enemy fleet was breaking. The humans pressed harder, pushing into the heart of battle with no mercy. On the ground, the Erythians whispered to each other. "Are they saving us?" one asked. "Or are they here to destroy us all?" another replied. The truth was simple. The Deathworlders had answered. And nothing would ever be the same again. The sky above the colony was no longer quiet. It burned. The Erythians had lived for generations under peaceful stars. They had never seen war, never heard the thunder of ships tearing the heavens apart. But now, their fields and cities shook under the weight of a battle beyond imagination. 2 fleets had arrived. One came to destroy. The other came to answer a cry for help. And when these 2 forces met, the galaxy itself seemed to tremble. The first clash. The enemy ships spread across the void like a swarm of predators. Black hulls, sharp angles, their design spoke of one purpose: war without mercy. The human fleet faced them, shields glowing, guns armed. The ships of Earth looked scarred and brutal, not elegant like Union vessels. They were machines built for survival. Ugly, deadly, unstoppable. Admiral Knox stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve. His officers waited for orders. The enemy fleet loomed closer. "Status?" Knox asked. "Enemy ships, 160, replied the sensor officer. "They are moving in fast." "And us?" 72 ships, Admiral. Outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Knox smiled faintly. Good. Let them think numbers will save them. The enemy fired first. Beams of red energy tore across the sky, slamming into human shields. Sparks burst. Alarms rang. Knox did not flinch. Return fire. At once, human ships spat fury. Missiles roared from their tubes, leaving trails of fire. Railguns fired slugs the size of cars, each moving faster than sound. Lasers burned across the void. The two fleets collided in a storm of destruction. The Erythians watch. On the ground, the colony's people stared upward. Their sky was filled with streaks of light, explosions flashing like falling stars. Children cried. Farmers trembled. Elders whispered prayers. The Erythian council gathered in panic. They are fighting right above us, one cried. If the humans lose, we are finished, another shouted. The council leader closed her eyes. She wanted to believe the humans came to save them. But as she watched the fury above, she could not tell if this was rescue, or the arrival of monsters. Inside the battle, the iron resolve shook as enemy fire slammed into it. Shields at 60%, the officer shouted. Target their lead ship, Knox ordered. Full firepower. The humans unleashed everything. Dozens of missiles streaked out, followed by blasts of railgun fire. The enemy's command ship exploded in a ball of fire, debris scattering across the stars. A cheer rang out on the human bridge. But Knox's voice stayed cold. Do not cheer. There are many more. The enemy swarmed. Smaller ships darted forward, firing in packs. A human destroyer caught too much fire, its shields collapsing. It vanished in a bright explosion. The crew of the Iron Resolve fell silent. One of their own was gone. Knox's jaw tightened. For every one of ours they take, we take 5 of theirs. Press harder. The humans pushed forward. Boarding actions. As the fleets clashed, some human ships broke formation. Instead of firing from a distance, they closed in, too close. Are they mad? The enemy commander roared as human ships rammed into their flanks. They were not mad. They were human. Boarding pods launched, slamming into enemy hulls. Human marines in armored suits cut their way inside, carrying heavy rifles. On one enemy cruiser, alarms blared as doors burst open. Dozens of humans stormed in, shouting to each other. They fought with brutal precision, clearing hallway after hallway. The enemy soldiers were taller, stronger, but the humans were relentless. They fought dirty. They used fire, grenades, knives. They never stopped. Within minutes, the enemy cruiser fell silent. Its guns turned. Its engines changed course. It now fought for the humans. The enemy falters. The enemy commander watched in horror. Their fleet was larger, faster, but it was breaking. These humans, they do not retreat, he muttered. Where other species would fall back, humans pushed harder. Where others would surrender, humans fought to the last breath. For every human ship destroyed, 5 enemies burned. But it was not only numbers that broke the enemy. It was fear. They had fought many species before. But never this. Never a species that smiled while dying, that laughed while bleeding, that treated war not as terror, but as home. These are not soldiers, an enemy captain whispered before his ship exploded. These are demons. The colony's fear. Back on the ground, the Erythians could hardly breathe. The night sky was fire. The humans fought with such violence that, even from the surface, it felt like the world was ending. Are they protecting us? One Erythian asked. They look like they are enjoying it, another said, shivering. The council leader whispered the thought no one dared speak aloud. What if the humans are worse than the enemy? The cost. The battle was not easy. Human ships burned. Men and women screamed as hulls broke and oxygen fled. Entire crews were lost. On the Iron Resolve, officers worked desperately. Admiral, we've lost 3 destroyers and 2 cruisers. Enemy? Knox asked. 28 ships destroyed, sir. Another dozen crippled. Knox's eyes narrowed. Keep pushing. Do not stop. The humans fought through exhaustion, through fire and death. Every time a ship fell, the survivors swore revenge. And slowly, the enemy fleet began to break. The turning point. After hours of battle, the humans saw it, the enemy retreating. Their formations broke. Their fire weakened. "Admiral!" the sensor officer shouted. "They're falling back." Knox's voice was calm, but his eyes burned. "Do not let them escape. Chase them down." The humans pursued with fury. Enemy ships tried to flee into hyperspace, but missiles hunted them. Railgun fire tore them apart. Boarding parties disabled others, capturing ships instead of destroying them. It was not just victory. It was annihilation. The watching Union. Across the galaxy, the Union watched reports come in. Every update was the same. Enemy ships destroyed. Enemy fleets broken. Humans victorious. The council chamber was silent. Delegates sat frozen. "They fought outnumbered," one whispered. "They did not retreat," another said. "They turned the enemy fleet into fire," a third muttered. The truth was clear. The humans had not only answered the SOS. They had destroyed an entire enemy force. The Union had always feared humanity. Now, that fear grew. The aftermath in orbit. When the last enemy ship exploded, silence returned to the stars. Debris drifted. Flames faded. The human fleet hung above the colony, scarred and broken but unbowed. Admiral Knox stood on the bridge, his face lit by the dying glow of battle. "Status?" he asked. 20 of our ships lost," came the reply. "Dozens damaged. Casualties, heavy. And the enemy? Destroyed, sir. Not a single one escaped." Knox nodded. "Good. Send word to the colony. Tell them they are safe." But his eyes remained cold. Because he knew the truth. They were safe for now. But more enemies would come. And humanity would be waiting. The colony reacts. The Erythians looked to the sky and saw silence where there had been fire. The enemy fleet was gone. The humans remained. The council leader stood before her people. "The humans have won. We are safe." But there was no cheer. No celebration. Only silence. Because in the eyes of the Erythians, the humans were not saviors. They were shadows, demons of war. They had been rescued, yes. But at what cost? Far above, the human fleet repaired. Crews patched holes, buried their dead, and sharpened their weapons. The enemy had been broken. The colony had been saved. But the galaxy had seen the truth. The Deathworlders had answered the call. And now, the galaxy would never forget their fire. The battle was over. But the fear had only begun. Above the Erythian colony, silence returned to the stars. The enemy fleet was gone, burned into dust. The human ships hung in orbit, scarred but unbroken. The colony had been saved. Yet, the Erythians looked to the sky with trembling hearts. For in their eyes, the fleet that saved them was not made of heroes. It was made of monsters. The quiet after fire. On the surface, farmers and families stepped out from shelters. They looked up at the black warships above their world. The ships were huge, brutal, covered with scars of old wars. Children pointed, wide-eyed. "Are they ours now?" one whispered. "No," an elder said quietly. "They belong to no one. Not even to themselves." The Erythian council gathered again. Their leader, pale with fear, spoke softly. "They came. They fought. They won. But I ask you, what are they?" No one answered. Because everyone already knew the word that was spreading across the galaxy. Deathworlders. The cost of victory. On the Iron Resolve, Admiral Knox read the casualty reports. 20 ships gone. Thousands dead, the officer reported. Knox's face stayed calm, but his voice was low. "And the enemy? Every ship destroyed, sir. None escaped." Knox nodded. He did not cheer. He did not smile. He only whispered, "Then it was worth it." To humans, loss was part of war. They mourned, yes, but they fought on. For every ship they lost, they swore vengeance. For every comrade who died, they promised to take more enemies with them. This was humanity's way. And it terrified those who watched. Stories spread. News of the battle spread faster than light. Traders carried it. Scouts whispered it. The Union listened in fear. "They fought outnumbered and won," one alien said. "They boarded ships and turned them into their own weapons," another whispered. "They never stopped. They never ran," said a third. Soon, across the stars, a new name was spoken. The fleet from hell. The Union's panic. In the great chamber of the Galactic Union, the Council shouted in fear. "They cannot be controlled," one delegate cried. "They destroyed an entire fleet," another shouted. The chairperson raised his claws. Silence. But silence did not last. Fear filled every corner. "They will not stop here," one alien said. "They will bring war wherever they go," another muttered. "They are not rescuers," a third hissed. "They are predators. And now they have tasted blood." The council tried to calm itself. But deep down, every species knew the truth. Once humans entered a war, they never left it unchanged. The colony learns humanity. While the Union panicked, the Erythians began to see the truth for themselves. Human soldiers landed on the colony. Not to conquer, but to help. They brought supplies, engineers, and medics. They patched damaged buildings. They gave food and water. They built defenses around the city. But their methods shocked the Erythians. A farmer watched as humans dug trenches around the town. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "In case they come back," a soldier replied simply. The farmer's skin turned pale. "But this is a farm world. We do not fight." The human smiled grimly. "You do now. A different kind of soldier." The Erythians watched humans work. They never rested. They repaired machines, built weapons, and trained with endless energy. But what scared the Erythians most was how humans treated each other. They laughed while bleeding. They smiled while tired. They carried their dead with respect, but no fear. "Why do they not break?" one Erythian whispered. "Because breaking is death on their world," another answered. They learned long ago that the weak do not survive. And as the colony watched, they began to understand, humans did not fight because they loved war. They fought because war was all they had ever known. Enemy shadows. In the ruins of the destroyed fleet, some enemy ships had escaped censors. A few crippled vessels drifted away, carrying survivors. Those survivors spoke in terror. "They are not soldiers," one told his commander. "They are beasts. They boarded us. They smiled while killing. They burned everything." The enemy commander listened and grew pale. "Then we have awakened something far worse than we feared." Plans began to form. They would return. They would bring larger fleets. They would crush the humans before they grew too powerful. But deep inside, they were already afraid. The fear of allies. Even among supposed allies, fear grew. Union scouts who came to observe the colony saw the human fleet still waiting. One scout whispered to another, "Look at them. They are repairing, even now." "Not repairing," the other said. "Sharpening." Reports went back to the Union. The humans were not resting. They were preparing for more war. And the Union asked itself, were these the allies they wanted? Or had they unleashed something they could never put back? The ritual of the dead. One night, the Erythians saw something strange. On the plain outside the colony, the humans gathered in silence. Thousands stood together, faces hard, holding helmets to their chests. The bodies of the fallen were lined up, covered in flags. No music played. No speeches were given. Only silence, heavy and endless. Then, as one, the humans saluted. The Erythians watched from a distance. Some felt pity. Others felt awe. But all felt fear. Because they realized something terrible. These were not mindless killers. These were people who loved fiercely, who mourned deeply, who would burn entire fleets to protect their own. The fleet from hell. Days turned into weeks. The humans remained in orbit. Their ships, once broken, now looked sharper than before. Their soldiers grew restless, hungry for the next fight. Admiral Knox stood at the viewport, watching the stars. "Enemy will come again," his officer said. Knox nodded. "Then we will meet them. And when they look at us, I want them to see hell itself." His words spread through the fleet. And soon, even humans themselves began using the name. They were no longer just the Terran Navy. They were the fleet from hell. The watching children. On the colony, Erythian children whispered about the humans. They drew pictures of their ships. They imitated their marches. "Are they heroes?" one child asked. "No," his mother whispered, pulling him close. "They are fire. Fire that can warm you, or burn you alive." The colony began to understand. Having humans as allies was not safety. It was living beside a storm. The Union's dilemma. Back in the Union, the Council could not decide. "Should we stop them?" one delegate asked. "Stop them?" another hissed. "How? They just destroyed a fleet twice their size." "Then we must contain them," a third argued, "before they spread further." But no one had an answer. For how do you contain fire? How do you chain a storm? The humans waited. The enemy prepared their revenge. The Union feared what would come next. And in the middle of it all, the Erythians whispered one truth. The SOS had gone to the wrong species. The wrong species had answered. And now, the galaxy would never know peace again. The fleet from hell was here. The stars were quiet again. The enemy fleet had been destroyed. The human ships hung in orbit, repairs complete, soldiers restless but alive. The Erythians looked to the sky, hoping finally to see safety. And for the first time, humans landed. Arrival on the surface. Thousands of humans marched down from their ships, heavy boots striking the ground. Armor gleamed under the twin suns. Weapons were slung, but not aimed. The Erythians gathered, trembling. They had never seen beings like this, tall, broad, their eyes hard, yet calm. The colony leader stepped forward. You are here to save us?" she asked, her voice small. A human officer, Captain Alina Cross, looked at her squarely. "We came because someone asked for help," she said. "And humans never leave a cry unanswered." "But, we did not send the SOS," the leader replied. "We only forwarded it to the Union." Cross smiled faintly, almost sadly. "That does not matter. The SOS went out. Someone was in danger. That is enough for us." The mystery revealed. Later, in the council chamber on the colony, the humans explained what had happened. The SOS, they said, had been sent years ago by a small group of scientists from a distant system. They had discovered a species, a predator race that enslaved entire planets. But before they could send a proper warning, their base had been attacked. The signal scrambled and wandered the galaxy until it reached the Deathworlders. "It should have never reached Earth," Cross said. "But it did. And we came." The Erythians gasped. They had assumed the humans were monsters, perhaps even invaders. "But now we know," one council member whispered. "They are monsters that protect us." Cross looked out at the fields. "We fight because we must. We kill because it is necessary. But we do not ignore a call for help." The words settled like fire in the council chamber. Simple, clear, terrifying. The humans help. Humans did more than just fight. They rebuilt. Engineers repaired water systems. Soldiers helped build hospitals. Medics treated the sick. The Erythians watched in awe. They had never seen such efficiency, such determination, such relentlessness. One young Erythian boy followed a human medic everywhere. "Why do you do all this?" he asked. The medic knelt beside him. "Because someone needs it," she said. "That is all that matters." The realization. Over days, the Erythians learned more about humanity. They learned that every human soldier had survived hellish conditions on their own world. That every ship they flew had endured storms, predators, and endless wars. The humans had not only survived, they had thrived. And now, that experience was being used to protect others. The Erythians whispered to each other. "They are terrifying," one said. "Yes," another replied. "But also necessary." "They are the kind of beings we pray for in nightmares," a third said. And slowly, the council realized the truth. Humans were not like any other species in the galaxy. They were dangerous, yes. Brutal, yes. But their loyalty, their courage, and their willingness to fight for others made them the greatest allies imaginable. Unanswered questions. Still, questions lingered. Who had sent the original SOS? Had it been a trap? Was the enemy waiting to strike again? The humans did not have all the answers. They only knew one thing: if the enemy came back, they would be ready. Admiral Knox spoke to his officers. "We answered the call. That is enough. But the galaxy will see more of this. We are not done yet." The enemy's shadow. Far away, the surviving enemy fleet regrouped. The horror of the battle had scarred them. Entire fleets had been destroyed by humans who fought without fear, without mercy, without pause. Their commander swore vengeance. "We will return," he said. "We will bring numbers, firepower, and death. And next time, we will finish what we started." But even as he spoke, fear remained in his eyes. He had seen humans up close. He had seen them smiling in the face of death. He had seen them take his fleet apart. The legend of the Deathworlders was growing. And with it, the terror. The fleet's message. Back on the colony, Cross addressed the gathered Erythians. "You may call us dangerous," she said. "You may fear us. But know this: we are here to protect, to fight, and to survive. We answer SOS calls because no one deserves to die when someone can help. That is all we do. That is who we are." The Erythians listened. Their fear mixed with awe. They had been saved. And they had survived. But they had also witnessed something greater: the unyielding will of humans. The galaxy watches. Word spread through the Union and beyond. Across hundreds of systems, beings whispered the name. The fleet from hell. Ships trembled when humans were near. Enemy fleets hesitated before attacking. Allies watched in awe and fear. The Deathworlders had answered the wrong SOS. And the galaxy had learned a lesson it would not soon forget. When humans fight, nothing, not fleet, not war, not destiny, can stop them. The final hook. On the colony, the Erythians looked at the stars. "Will they leave?" one asked. Cross smiled faintly. "We go where we are needed. But we do not leave those who cannot defend themselves." The Erythians understood. The humans were not just warriors. They were protectors, monsters, saviors, and a storm the galaxy could never contain. And somewhere in the darkness of space, new enemies stirred. They had heard the stories. They had seen the fire. The fleet from hell would be tested again. And when that day came, the galaxy would know true fear. Because the SOS had gone to the wrong species. The wrong species had answered. And the wrong species was only getting started.